to the No Practice Podcast, where we cover the only sport in the world where there is no practice. With your mini rod driving host, Adam Kester, Tyler Slaw, and Chase Richardson. Strap in for some debates on the world of pulling, exclusive special guests, and a whole lot of nonsense BS. The No Practice Podcast starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 31 of the No Practice Podcast, joined by my co-host, Mr. Chase Richardson and Adam Kester. I know everybody's probably a little bit nervous because Chase is not in his normal studio. He is somewhere out and about, but I believe it is actually quiet there, unlike when that
It's
idiot
not a bar.
Unlike when you tried to do it for a bar. Fresh on the board with an interruption right out of the gate. Chase, tell us where you're at today, sir.
Well, please forgive me because I didn't know how responsive my voice is going to be. As you can tell, I'm a little hoarse right now. I am in the home of the Indianapolis Colts, Lucas Oil Stadium. Yeah, that's what it's called, Lucas Oil Stadium, for the PRI trade show that gets kicked off tomorrow. I'm at the Full Pull Picks booth, and I have a recognizable tractor here as my backdrop. Mr. Adam Bowers cross-threaded. Here, obviously, a mainstay. You know what's crazy? The show hasn't even started, but there are vendors and people have been going around. I haven't been here much, but like this thing, it's like going to the zoo. Like people are in the zoo, and it's like the big. Correct. I don't know what's the coolest thing people see in the zoo. What's the coolest thing in the zoo? Giraffe. It's like the giraffe at the zoo here. Yeah, the giraffe. But it's we take it for granted that truck and tractor pulling fans know it, but like this is not probably the same demographic. This is more of a gearhead type show. And we'll get into PRI probably a lot more, but a lot of these performance motorsports people have never seen anything like this. So we all know the brilliance of engineering here. So it's cool to see that. I'm sure it's going to be a hot ticket this week. So that's a long-winded version of saying I'm in the Colts Stadium, and there is no music in the background.
Okay, I like it. And Adam, those are your power plants on that machine behind Mr. Chase?
Yeah, sure are. Looks like he's got 5 of them on there, of course. See DMP blowers, some carbon fiber
I
injector
like this.
hats.
It's like I put my arm around it right here.
Yeah, looks good. I'd have to admit, I see a shining wheel and some tire wet there on the tires. Looks like it's got it cleaned up pretty good. Looks good in that big old stadium.
No,
yeah,
Chase,
it's cool.
For those people, obviously Adam and I know what cross-threaded is, as well as, many of the people tuning in right now. But for the person that has no idea what Adam Bowers cross-threaded tractor is, walk us through the basics of what is all on that. You don't have to move your camera, but just verbally describe it.
I was going to walk.
Well, for the audio-only listeners, they can't see.
Yeah.
So tell us what's behind you and how it works.
So it's a 15,000 horsepower vehicle, give or take. That's probably about right, Adam, right? You got 5
I don't
engines.
know. Some of our haters think they don't make that much, but I think they do.
So it's 5 engines like we run on each of our mini rods is probably a good way to say it. Yeah. On an 8,000-pound vehicle, each engine runs, and this particular machine has what they call a cross box, where the 4 of the engines are turned sideways and they're kind of tied together from their back end through a gearbox. Crossbox Profab machine out of Wisconsin made this one, but Adam had a unique engineering thought on this, and if he was around, I'm sure the last I saw him, he was with Jeff Hurt and some others at Hooters this afternoon. So it's probably a blessing he's not here, but
of course,
I'm saying that about the guy who brought his tractor here. But Adam and his team had the great idea of basically sitting a engine on top of these 4 engines, like literally. Like a kid stacking Legos. They've stacked a Lego on top and have all 5 of these engines run together, and it's really, really badass to even look at, let alone watch go down the track. And second in Grand National points this year, was champion last year. And like we often say on the show, anytime Adam Bowers running something, he's running it hard. So really cool piece of engineering here, and proud ambassador for the sport of pulling here at the biggest motorsports trade show in the world. So is that a good enough version? there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for anybody that doesn't know, the SEMA show is put on by the same company puts on the PRI show, which is the performance racing industry. And SEMA's more of a, you might see a pretty cool looking like street rod or your resto mod or something like that, or jacked up trucks and all this stuff. The PRI show is strictly racing. You'll see anything from drag racing, tractor pulling, they have dirt car stuff. Just every vendor, every person really imaginable in the racing game will probably go to that show and try to see what's new on the market, try to get maybe some insights on what some other people are doing for the companies, and it's a really good place to go for like myself to go and meet with some of our vendors and stuff that we buy parts from, and actually put a face with the name and kind of keep those relationships strong. So it's a very pivotal show in the racing industry. I'm not actually going to be able to make it this year. Just really too busy here at home with work, and honestly, I don't want to get sick. So, because there's a lot of people that run through there, and we always call it like the PRI flu. You come back from there, you usually feel great for a couple days, but I don't know if that has to do with like Chase's reasons for going out and drinking all night and then staying up way too late and just getting the immune system down, or if it's just everybody that doesn't wash their hands and coughing and hacking and spreading germs all over the place. But I hate that I'm missing it. But
I have a reason for why I'm not feeling well, but we'll get to it. It was called the Gateway Dirt Nationals last Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, this trade it's here in downtown Indianapolis. We're in the Colts Stadium that's tied into the Indiana Convention Center, and I believe this is the biggest trade show all year here in Indianapolis. They expect, I think they say 70,000, 75,000 people that attend it.
Yeah.
So really,
just 4 or 5 days ago, they had the Big Ten National Championship in there.
They did.
Big Ten Championship
football.
Game.
Yeah,
yep.
They did. That is correct. So, and it's open. It used to not be, but it is open to the public. You, if you just want to walk up and have no vendor registration, it's a $40 entry to get in. But if someone in the area is interested and wants to just ride into town tomorrow through Saturday, you can get in for a $40 entry. So that's something they've changed here as of late. So I'm sure they'll send the commission check to me when our 50,000 plus viewers all are lined up here on tomorrow morning. But yeah, speaking of, what about the King of Smoke? We have some good news and bad news to report about the No Practice podcast coming off the record show ever. Shout out to the Esden Lane and the crew that went up there to make that all happen. I mean, the viewership and reach was by far and away our biggest. I think I haven't looked, but it was up above 50,000 on all the channels that viewed or listened or downloaded at some point, which is amazing. But what better way to come off that than with the next podcast coming in hot with our first ever
guest, right?
Our first ever guest cancellation.
What?
And you heard it here, first ever guest cancellation. So we went 30 episodes.
Chase,
we went 30 episodes and no cancellations, and after our biggest one ever really hit our stride, I don't even know if it's cancellation. You just kind of ghosted me, so I don't know what you call that.
Hang on. The polling fans have been telling us that we need to have on a four-wheel drive, like a naturally aspirated four-wheel drive puller. We had the diesel four-wheel drive guy. We've talked a little bit to RJ Simon, but we were going to have on the Grand National champion of the four-wheel drive truck class, modified four-wheel drive truck class. So how did the invite go down, Chase, and how did we arrive at this point where we have no guest?
Yeah, I'll take all the blame for this. Typically, or one of us is always in direct communication with our upcoming guests and do work in advance of that. And this has been a big one we've had circled, and was at the NTPA banquet last weekend in Columbus, Ohio. Had a quick exchange with Mark Mangan, who's a friend. He's still a friend of this, just not the same type of friend, right? But had exchange like, hey, you do this podcast? Yeah, he's good. And then I don't know. He texted me last night. I was giving him some info, and they basically indicated I don't know if I want to do this or not. And then I've been ghosted a lot of times, but never by a male for a podcast. So he just ghosted me today. So I guess that checked it off my list of things I've done in life. But yeah, I get maybe he's sick or something. We'll just say he got bit by a tick or something.
Well, I would say anybody that sees him at a pull, like pulling fans and whatnot, we're not asking you to be mean to him, but maybe just go up to him and say, hey, I was really, really looking forward to learning, the ins and outs on what makes this happen, and hearing about your story, and kind of harass him a little bit that he canceled on us. What do you
Yes,
think?
in straight vindication, because I was very mad at him. I sent him a text and said, before today, you were known as the back-to-back NCBA Grand National Champion. After today, you'll be known as the only guy to ever cancel the No Practice podcast. Congratulations. So it's all good. We you can't hit them. You can't bat 1,000 on all of our guest attempts. So I guess it was never a consideration to cancel a show. So we're just going to carry on. And we do still have a guest coming, but this was always planned in advance. The main guy was going to be Mark Mangan, but Mark, we're still your friend.
Well,
I'm going to harass him.
I think he probably didn't want to hurt his great reputation that he has coming on the show, and maybe seeing us get underneath his skin and maybe ask him a few questions that he may or may not want to answer in public. Yeah. He's a pretty reserved guy, pretty straight-laced, clean. Everything's tidy and neat about Mark. I really wanted to ask him that first year we went to the U.S. Nationals, and he went with us. And Mark's got this really nice rig, and he kind of went to bed somewhat early for the group that we were with. And he woke up the next day, and his entire toter home was completely covered in beer cans, like all over his steps, all over the hood, all over the whole.
That's why he canceled. That's why he canceled.
He's got an axe to grind with you, Adam.
Yeah, there's an axe to grind.
And being the great person that he is, if it was me, I'm not saying that I probably wouldn't get out and throw them all away. I would have, if I would have been a little angry, I would have probably just drove away and the cans fall where they were. Mark actually got out and put every single one of them in the trash can and did the did the good thing. But I would like to see. I was going to look for the look on his face when he woke up and saw his beer cans all over his beautiful rig. But sorry, Mark.
No,
it's funny. It's funny.
Well, now it makes sense why he decided not to come on.
Speaking of the U.S. Nationals NHRA race, pretty large one. Adam, were you there when I believe that tractor behind Chase got unloaded from the trailer and fired up?
Yeah. Needless to say that. Yeah, this throws up a few red flags for anybody. I think it was like the second year we were there, and it was quite eventful year. We used to park up by the circle track right outside the drag strip there, and I don't know, it got fairly
Adam,
late.
Hang on. We need to probably explain how we end the season at Wasion and take the rigs.
Okay,
over there, right? Yeah. You can give me an introduction for the good courtesy for the fans.
Yeah, last Grand National pull for a lot of us, the mini rod class, 4-wheel drive class. And we get in Wasion on Friday night, and everybody kind of hurries up and loads the stuff in the trailer, and all kind of wait on each other and take off like a big convoy down to Indianapolis. We usually get down there about 2:00 in the morning. And of course, we got to have a few beverages and stuff once we get there. But so we get there and whatnot, and Adam usually had to go to Canfield.
Adam
next
Bauer.
Night. Adam Bauer. This is. I had to go to Canfield on Saturday
with this tractor.
Yeah, with cross threaded, and so he shows up a little bit late on Saturday, and I do believe the night before, this was Sunday for the race, and Monday, Saturday night, I think he made a pass, and I don't know what happened. They had these log headers on the tractor, and what a log header is like a collector, so like all 4 cylinders go into one pipe. Well, when you run the engines extremely rich, it kind of, when you back out of the throttle, there's some excess fuel that gets put in the pipes, and it lit up. Like the whole tractor was on fire basically at the end of the track. And he shut it down, whatever. Can't remember how he did. He probably did pretty good. And so he just loads the tractor up, comes down to U.S. Nationals. And I don't know, Saturday night, probably, 2:00 in the morning, and Darren Mayer's over there, and Darren Mayer's never sat on the tractor. He's been building stuff for Adam for all these years, and they rolled it out because some guys wanted to see it, and so they rolled it out there, and all of a sudden, somebody gets the bright idea. Why don't we fire this thing up?
Well,
And I
yeah,
was like-
naturally.
And Adam,
5
being
o'clock in the
Adam,
morning.
yeah,
Yeah,
Adam being Adam's like, oh, I don't care, whatever, let's do it. So him and Truckee roll it out, they get the starters out, they start firing up these engines one at a time. It's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and Darren Mayer's sitting in the seat, and they get all 5 running. I have to say, no fires, everything was pretty good. We didn't know what to expect, and Darren gets in there, and he, Adam's like, give it some throttle, and he like barely touches it, and he's like, no, give it some throttle, and he finally whacks it pretty good one time, and they start shutting them all off and everything. Everybody's laughing, hooping, hollering. People were coming out of campers. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that started
These
coming
things
around.
are pretty loud for sure.
Yeah. So, needless to say, the next day, that may have been told to somebody that we know that's in charge of some pretty important stuff, says that can no longer happen, and actually came down to, you guys can never pull another vehicle outside of the trailer. Then they actually just relocated us on the outside of the fence. So as much fun as it was, they actually made it hard. They moved us like another eighth of a mile away from where we were, but in all good fun though. It was pretty cool. See that thing firing up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I would imagine. And for those who don't know, Darren Mayer is the DM of DMPE, the manufacturer of the superchargers that quite a few pullers run, including the ones on cross-threaded sitting there behind Chase. And I believe he's got a booth there at PRI as well. So if you see Mr. Darren Mayer in the DMPE booth, make sure you ask him about the story of when he fired up a 5-engine pulling tractor at the U.S. Nationals at 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm sure you'll get a good chuckle hearing his side of that story for sure.
Yeah, that was
Pretty
neat. But I mean, it's pretty. To me, I always look at like where Chase is standing on, being in that thing, or being in Lucas Oil Stadium with without the football field in there, right, and all the stuff, the trucks, the trailers. They have like a go-kart track over there, I think. A lot of really cool stuff. I always wish that one day that we'd maybe get to pull in that stadium. And who knows? Maybe it's not completely out of the books, but I always think it would be cool to pull in a stadium that big.
Yep. We also have, with the news of Mark Megan resigning from his opportunity. We mentioned in our last episode the 4-1 Pro Stock, 4-1 Limited Pro Stock class. There's some communication, some things that we've heard out there regarding turbos and so forth that we couldn't really speak of, but we want to get someone on here that could speak of it. So we invited Mr. Jim Kalinowski. Did I pronounce it correct, Jim?
Yeah, you got it.
From Weimer's Turbochargers. We've never met you once, Jim. So I will say that early on that we have no idea anything about turbos or anything diesel related. So this will be good for our listeners as we try to educate the rest of the world on some things that we don't know as well. So, but thanks for joining us, Jim. Jim, where is Weimer's located at specifically?
We're in Sandy Lake, Pennsylvania. That's like halfway between Pittsburgh and Erie, kind of north-south Pennsylvania, kind of real close to Ohio, that northwest corner. Yep.
Gotcha.
So
You're in Yinzer Central then, huh?
Pretty close, yeah. We get into the snow and that kind of stuff over here. It's
Gotcha.
snowing today. So.
Yeah, it's snowing here too, pretty good. So for us ignorant supercharger people, give us the breakdown on what it is. We hear everybody in their winter circle speeches. I'd like to thank Weimer Fuel and Air. Tell us what it is Weimer does, how Weimer got to where it is today, and what your guys' role is in the pulling world.
Well, that's a lot. You guys, by the way, I don't know anything about blowers or superchargers or spark plugs, so I'm with you. I'm just on the opposite
So you
side.
you think we're stupid too?
No, I don't think you're stupid. You guys are probably the smart one.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
It's just we're flip-flop, that's all.
Right.
Yeah.
We run in different circles. So basically, I guess I'll start. So let's start, I guess, with the 4-1. The 4-1 deal is a little bit of a what would we say from the.
You can say whatever you want in this podcast too, Jim.
Yeah, you don't have to be proud.
You don't have to be politically correct.
It's a consequence of a smooth bore rule, right? Like we have all these turbo rules, and 4-1 kind of came about because Super Farm class had 3-inch turbos and they were 3-inch smooth, and then they went to 3-inch slotted. Well, then map rings started getting really hard to police, so a lot of the guys that were running 3-inch map ring turbos said, "Hey, let's go to this 4-1 smooth. It'll be more power. It's easier to police." And for the most part, it is. And the 4-1's referring to the bore, and like I said, smooth entry, so no map grooves around it. It's fairly cut and dried, but there's the ingenuity. Everybody's pushing. Always say I feel like a drug dealer because guys are calling looking for more power all the time, right? Like I have, it's constant. So that's kind of evolved. Our latest design, I think there was some controversy and some, how there's always the guys that haven't saw it maybe, and one, things get stretched out of proportion. But my brother does the design stuff, and he came up with a pretty wild looking design that usually when we have these wild looking designs, they don't really work. We'll send it out, try it, but it's usually a flop. Well, this was like pretty good. So we kind of rolled with some of that. Of course, as these turbos are out there, guys are figuring out, I'll say, who has who, so things are been pushed along. But the turbos, for the most part, pretty good. We had some failures with them. We did some changes, some revisions. But for the most part, like I said, I think we had things under control. The guys that keep things within parameters, we had pretty good success. But so then there was some debate of I was getting questioned about. I said, I don't know if I don't know what the biggest agenda with it is, but I think that from what I've gathered, most guys I'm geared towards safety. I told him, I said, man, we've blown up 4-1 turbos. We've blown up pro stock turbos. You guys probably saw it. It doesn't matter. Anything with a turbo, sooner or later, it's going to break.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be maybe some more safety and containment stuff implemented, which I think is not a terrible idea. We did a lot of that last winter with the exhaust containment. A lot of those devices manufactured, and all that stuff seemed to be pretty good. So been pretty happy with how that went. I think there could be some more containment on the intake side. That's all being developed and discussed right now. So I think that maybe a lot of it is rolling more towards a safety aspect. I hate to see them scale the power back, and
nobody wants that.
Nobody wants to lose power, and everybody's going to and it's not like we're just going to go back to the old turbos, right? Now we'll be developing something else, and Puller buys another turbo, and like it's just the snowball. So I think we'll see how things roll. I haven't heard anything really official from anybody yet, so yeah, I guess we're getting pretty late for. I'm not sure. I know that Clint Tucker's pool, they stated they're going to roll with whatever was last year's rules for everything. It sounded like possibly a farm show was going to go with some new rules, but yeah, I don't know how many 4-1 tractors.
I don't want to speak of the farm show. It seems like they typically, in the historically, they roll with the rules from the previous year, but I don't know.
That's what I've always.
I'm not quoting myself on that. That's typically.
I get it. Yeah, that's typically. But I've heard some rumblings that they wanted to try to implement this differently. So I had some concerns about that. Yeah, it doesn't seem to make good sense, right? But I guess we can rewind. I don't know what other questions you had.
Where did all this start? Like where did Weimer's start? where did the idea that you guys wanted to start doing your own stuff start?
So, my brother Steve, I tried to get him to come down here. I'm at home right now. This is my garage at home, and
Nice shot.
he didn't want to be on the podcast. He's one of them guys too.
Is his name Mark Mangan?
Yeah. So anyway, he's kind of the design and machine guy. I'm the nuts and bolts of it. I do the turbo stuff. Alex Custa is my fuel pump guy. Preston Grace does the injectors. It's a little bit of what we have. Like we have a lot of stuff to keep up with, but a lot of it is, I think, successful because we keep it pretty reined in. Like sometimes I think maybe I'm being a little crazy, not to have more people on the front line, so to speak, or the assembly, but it gives us pretty good quality control that way,
Sure.
But anyways, backing up. So me and Steve, we started doing a little bit of farm stock pulling, and I think maybe we had probably moved into like a hot farm class, messing around. So I was in diesel in high school, and I co-opted at Weimer fuel injection. No real high performance stuff being done, just stock. I remember tearing 6.9 and 7.3 Ford pumps apart. That was the thing, 6.2 Chevys, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yes, really awesome stuff. So then we went. So me and Steve started as tractor pulling. He's working in a machine shop. He's doing some EDM stuff. I'm doing the fuel stuff. We start doing some injectors and a little bit of pump stuff. One thing leads to another. We start doing a little bit of playing around with that, I'll say. Then when he got into the idea of making some turbo parts, I think mainly just because so they have you guys heard like the mod turbo class over here.
Mm-hmm.
We called that limited pro. We were building a tractor for that limited pro class. Actually, we still have it. It's a Massey with the Perkins V8. So
Nice.
we're working on that, and we're like, well, we have no money, like we're working with nothing. So we're like, we'll just, he's like, we'll just make the parts. So what got things, that's kind of what started the turbo thing, and then the pump thing kind of progressed along with that. We did some stuff in that class. It's probably kind of what got us headed into pro stock turbo first, which is a little unique about probably what we had going on. But at that time, there was no size rules on these classes. Like on this class over here, it was an A pump class, but it was unlimited turbo. So yeah, you got it. We were big turbos, and we started with that, and it was probably around 2012.
Did you just see something that was out there, maybe maybe a part that wasn't holding up, and thought we could do something better, or was
at the beginning, seriously, it was just because we didn't have any money to buy it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we were just like,
You
we're
made
just gonna build a
something
couple of these, right? Like that wasn't the vision. You know what I mean? Like we weren't thinking that we're gonna go build. You know what I mean? And Steve, like he's not like, a lot of places or people, maybe would take a compressor wheel that they like and they'd scan it, and they get it copied, and that's what they do. So Steve decided he's going to draw it. Like he's going to look at it and he's going to figure out how to draw it in SolidWorks. Like with no training, you know what I mean? He no formal, no schooling. And he figures it out. Like it took him like 6 months of constant drawing, beating his head off
self-taught.
The wall. Yeah, self-taught. Figured out how to draw it, but with him, it's kind of we've kind of been through some designs that way, and I think that's helped. I got hooked up with Robbie Lemke probably around 2012-ish, 11 maybe even somewhere around there. And we started talking about the pro stock thing, and that probably is where I realized there was the opportunity. We discussing the problems they were having with the Columbus turbos and different things they were having, reliability issues with, and just started attacking ways of trying to fix it, make it better. And that's kind of what all of our stuff, like I've told you, we're not on the plan of doing the same thing over and over. You know what I mean? Like I can't have a bunch of stuff out there breaking or we won't get anything accomplished,
Right.
Because we don't have that much manpower. My son just walked over. He was going to sit in with me. You coming in?
Yeah, he can say hi if he
Yeah,
wants.
he can sit in there.
He's got to introduce himself, though.
It's my
What's your
replacement. You going to say hi?
Hi, Waylon.
Waylon?
Waylon?
What's your role in the
Yeah,
shop, Waylon? Do you help Dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about it?
I don't know. Just
Her customer relations.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
customer
he's a PR
relations.
guy.
You
PR
can-
guy.
He came in almost every day this summer. I was pretty happy with him.
What's the worst job Dad gives you to do?
cleaning out the fridge.
The fridge.
I'm
What's in
pretty
the
fond of
fridge
that one
normally?
The
myself.
fridge can be pretty bad.
What's
Everybody
normally in the
leaves
fridge,
their lunch.
Waylon?
Oh, leaves their lunch.
Leaves their
Yeah.
lunch.
Yeah, like their leftovers get left in there and they get pushed back and pushed back.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
nobody will
yeah.
touch anything until Waylon comes in.
I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Waylon,
Waylon, what graded school? How old are you? And what grade are you in?
I'm 11 and I'm in 6th grade.
6th grade.
Nice.
Now the dog wants out.
Well, yeah, everybody wants in on this action.
Henry's leaving. No, so that's kind of how like I said, that was kind of what started it. And then, like I said, Robbie kind of got us in a little deeper, probably on the pro stock front. And like I said, Steve and me and Steve work pretty closely on it, obviously, like with design, he designs stuff and I'm kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And he comes up with the crazy ideas and, I tell him, I guess, whether I think it's going to work or not. And he does it anyways. And we try it.
Sounds
That's
like
kind of how
great
it
teamwork.
goes. Yeah, it works pretty good.
That's straight up
So at
just
that time, he was,
necessity.
so actually till like, I want to say 2015 or 16, he was working full time at the tool shop still, which was probably half an hour away from our shop. And he would drive down at night and I'd have some parts running during the day and, we'd back and forth. And then he finally went full time and then he's got a shop that's like 30 feet away from our shop. So we're like separate, but together, if that makes any sense. So he kind of runs his show over there. He has all the machining stuff and I have all the nuts and bolts of it, the Weimer fuel injection and turbo. And then kind of as the pro stock thing progressed, we've gotten into more and more of the billet pump stuff because, as Columbus was fading, we had to kind of step in there, I guess. And that's where Alex has taken a big role he does all the fuel pump stuff. Like I stated before, that's a whole other huge thing that, is crazy.
So in a matter of about 10 years, you've been able to go from working on your own stuff to like supplying half of the pullers now, right?
Yeah, something like that. And I would say like pro stock market's probably fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, is more than that. It's probably 90%. But
yeah, that's what I was getting at. I mean, like in 10 years, you guys went from basically. I have to say, I've never. You heard of the Columbus, you heard of Harts, you heard of Hypermax, you heard of some of these guys, and then all of a sudden you're like Weimer. I've never heard of them before, and then all of a sudden everybody has it. So you guys must be doing something really good over there because it seems like everybody that I look at has your guys' stuff.
Yeah, we try to make stuff that works, like I always say. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to sell parts that don't work.
Right.
It's a pretty simple concept, right down to, necessity is the mother of invention. We just had Bill Voorhees comment. I'm impressed at how fast Weimer's pumps and turbos became the top dogs in the diesel classes. And it is pretty cool. I mean, it felt like out of nowhere, all of a sudden you guys were just boom, there you are, right on top. It's got to be strange as a manufacturer. I feel like you almost have to read the rule book and you have to search for small areas that are left open, where you can get an advantage and get an edge? And does it almost feel like as soon as you come out with something, you guys thought about it a little bit of a different way, and then it's like, well, you guys can't have that, and you're like, well, what do you mean? Show me we can't. Like, do you find that organizations are almost writing rules against the innovations and loopholes you find in the written rules?
Yeah, we try to stay. I try to stay, as far in the black as I can. How's that? I'm never one to. Never
what
one
about
to.
your brother?
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes, but even like this 4-1. So that was one part of the discussion we were having, in the rules meetings that and the people I've spoke with. So the rule states that there's to be a 4-1 bore, the 4-1 bore in the cover, and the wheel must protrude an 1/8 inch into the bore, which is all, the kind of all the smooth bore rules are written that way. And our wheel does, it protrudes into the bore. And as it goes, it actually, the face of the wheel sticks beyond the bore, but rather than like a lot of the faces would have like a angle to them, right? You see them, they kind of come to the point, the face of the blades are angled forward to get some blade length. Well, Steve's got this front very rounded, and that's what's created the buzz, I guess. For lack of a better term, everybody has called it the boat prop wheel.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
I've heard the Evan Rude. I've heard the all that. Yeah.
That's what I've heard. Even as a ignorant supercharger kid, out of the discussions of turbochargers, I've heard that, that it sticks out beyond, and I'm like, well, it sounds like to me
it
that
doesn't
they
stick beyond the cover. Like that was a lot of what guys were saying. Like it sticks beyond, but it doesn't. Like
it's just
as
right
it
there.
hits the 4-1 bore, that's where your tangent point would be, and the front of it starts to round. You know what I'm saying?
Oh well, it seems to me
So
like
instead of being a straight edge there, it's just rounded there.
Yeah.
So
take us on this little trip here. You guys went, and obviously Diesel World is taken off pretty hot and heavy in the pulling. Are you guys doing a lot of stuff for drag racing stuff?
No, we dabbled in that a little bit, but honestly, I've stayed busy with the tractor pullers and the people that I really like tractor pullers. How's that? I'll just leave it at that.
No, I'm right there with you.
Drag racing world's different people. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. I own an engine business, and I sell these supercharged engines to both tractor pullers and drag racers, and there is a difference in the type of people. There are good people on both sides,
probably,
but there are a lot of differences too.
Yeah, and I just hit it off with. I mean, a lot of the tractor pullers. I mean, we're really lucky. We have this very good. Sure. It's a very good group. It's a small group, right? Like, I mean, if there's someone that's a problem, usually somebody tells you about it, right? Like, that guy. Better be a little careful. You know what I mean? And like, it's a good group.
Sure,
no doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. So everybody knows in the pro stock world, there's big turbos, and we've all seen these big turbos. I mean, for those watching, I had my hands spread out about the size of my head. What is like the largest turbo for a pro stock, like that inlet bore, for those that have never laid eyes on something like this? Like, what's the biggest turbo you guys have ever made?
Well, the rule, PPL's rule is 6.5 on the bore. NTPA doesn't have a rule, I guess.
You guess.
Yeah, they don't have a rule. We haven't really done too much bigger than that. Most guys want to be able to kind of run both organizations. And the exhaust wheel, they've put both organizations are running a 6-inch cap on the turbine side. So that kind of limits how much drive you have, right? Like,
okay.
So that was kind of a idea that we had. I kind of pushed for that in the light pro class when they wanted to put a cap on the light pro. They talked about doing the same thing with the light pro. Let's make it 5-inch or 4.8 or whatever the number was going to be at the time. And I said, if we make it another smoothbore class, like I said, I could already see all the crazy stuff we're doing on 4.1, right? Or 3.0 or the 3-inch. One world we live in a little bit, there's these 8,500 3x4s, and those guys dyno so much that it like 15 horsepower is 15. You know what I mean? Like they're on it. So the wheels are thin, and you know what I mean. Like you gotta take some chances. Where if you have the unlimited bore, you can still keep quite a bit of structure in the wheel. Has been my theory, anyways. And like I said, on the pro stock front, it's been good. The light pro front, same thing. It's been pretty good. But I'll say we haven't been much bigger than 6.5 on the pro.
Okay.
Not yet. So
Not yet.
If they opened up, if we had a big exhaust wheel, we could probably go to, 7 or something. I don't know.
So when they capped that, were you glad to see that rule in place that, there would be a ceiling to that? Or were you kind of thinking maybe we would just keep going up and up?
It takes some pressure off, right? I mean, it can't grow exponentially. So I can remember the first Pro Stock Turbo I took to the dyno, personally was, I think that would have been in 2013. I think it was 13. And we were right at 3,000 horsepower. And that's, I remember thinking, holy smokes, we're at 4,000 horsepower. You know what I mean? That was about the time that rule probably came in place. We were at 4,000 horsepower. And it has slowed it down, but there's a lot of guys talking about 5,000 horsepower. It's crazy.
Right.
So, I mean, I can't say that it was bad to cap the turbine side. You know what I mean? Like slowing it down, it's not a terrible thought.
So you talk about these progressive numbers over the years. If you were to, place a dot on a graph every year of, where a turbo is at with progress, I feel like we've seen it really picking up over the last couple of years. With the technology at your disposal, do we expect this continue to trend that direction, or are we going to plateau eventually where things just can't be pushed any further given the current rule sets in place?
So I thought the same, like we've had these thoughts on a lot of it that, you're up against a wall, I've had guys tell me there's no more there, like I said, like the 4.1 thing, I had guys say, well, that's all you can get through a 4.1 bore.
And then came the Evinrude.
Then came the Evinrude. And I mean, I had a lot of guys bolt that on, and they were like, man, that was 100 horsepower. And 100 horsepower on a 4.1, I said, I was like, there's no
major.
It's huge.
There was, it's like, it's one thing when you're gaining 100 from something that's not very good, but like I always keep telling my customers and the guys that are pulling, I'm like, the further you get up, there's a lot more room below you than there is above. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff that's not going to work. There's not only a few things that are. So, but yeah, I hate to say that it's going to stop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like, keep coming up with ideas, and engine builders keep coming up with better parts, and it's like the pro stock engines, right? Like I can remember when we were close to that 4,000 horse number and the Riverside motors started having trouble, and I'm like, oh man, this is not good. They're knocking rod bearings out, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. And then next thing we go, the next year would hit and Phil would have the problems worked out, or whoever, and they would be back to running. You know what I mean? Like run all season, or Carlton cope with Mike's stuff, just a lot of it, which those guys have been great, dealing with. Carlton does all Mike's stuff, and that's helped us a lot. Carlton's great to work with. Mike's super for pulling. Everybody knows that. Like I said, there's a lot of good people around. That helps too.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I've heard a rumor that like the injection pumps or the fuel pumps of some sort have to be stored in a certain manner, and even if something gets like tipped upside down, like you got to send it back. Is that just rumor and nonsense, or is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't ever heard that one. Maybe maybe in some of the Sigmas, like the ball weights, you could get a weight out of place probably. Like
Okay.
With the way that governor is, that may be where that came from. Somebody might have had one like tipped on its end one time, like up, with the nose up, and got something out of whack, but not usually.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, because mechanically I could not physically wrap my head around what inside of an injection pump could just, oh no, it was upside down. You'd better send it back.
You got to send it back.
Yeah.
It'll last 2 minutes of you.
Yeah. Take us through that, because you have a diesel engine that, obviously has crank rods and pistons in it, but then you also have an injection pump that's like an entire engine itself running on the side of the engine. What do you find more challenging, the turbos or the pumps? Like, to be more intricate, I guess, would be probably the pumps.
So the pump's got more intricate pieces, more pieces. I always said the failures aren't as bad. You know what I mean? Like the pump never comes. I mean, rarely. I should say rarely comes back, and you're just like, wow, there's nothing left. I don't even know what happened. Like you can usually figure out what's happened. I'll say that the turbo is probably easier to make horsepower, like consistently. Like I can say, Steve always put it as he felt like the pump had to fuel the turbo. The turbo is going to make the power. You know what I mean? Like, if you got a good pump, you're going to be good. The turbo, you can, it's easier to push it. You know what I mean? It just seems like the engine reacts back more to that. The pump, there's so much in injection rate and timing and stuff that seems that it can vary engine to engine. And, to say that it's going to react on every engine the same, that is a bold statement. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. But the crazy thing about the pumps is the horsepower thing. Like everybody always talked like Columbus had this 100 horsepower stand. We always were like, wow, that's crazy, right? And as we got working, Jody and Colin Ross, they were pretty early on in that injection pump thing, and man, that thing makes me nervous. Like I can't. It's hard to watch, but we definitely had some rough times there getting that all working. But as we run their pump, and we want to take it to, and I mean, when Colin's running on the track, like 6,000 RPMs is now the question. In the diesel world, 6,000 RPMs is pretty fast. So the pump's running half speed, so we have to run at 3,000. So we built a test stand with a DT 466 power unit, and pretty simple, just a twin disc clutch and a blower belt runs it, and I've sped it up 10%, so it's 10% overdrive. So if I want to run the pump at 3,000, the engine's running 2,700, say 2,750, which is pretty good wheelhouse for the 466. It should have good power there. And we're trying to get Colin's pump sped up. We've got his injectors in, his fuel setting, and I just can't get it. And I'm like, man, I can't believe that test stand won't run more RPM. And I'm backing the RPM screw out, can't get any more. And I had to go to the full load screw in the fuel pump, which basically meant that I was using all the power. I ran that in, it sped on up. And
so in other words,
blew one of the injection lines out shortly after, but it was making it made me realize that we were using all that. It was like 235 horse or something.
Yeah. So for those that didn't catch that, a DT 466, which is an engine you see in all sorts of stuff, very common in like older school buses and anything under the sun, really. That engine alone, trying to drive the injection pump for one of these things, that engine could not do it. So the engine driving a school bus was struggling to drive just this injection
fuel pump.
Yeah, and I think that the engine we have would have been probably pretty hot for a school bus. It was an industrial genset or like power unit engine, so it was like I said, it would have probably been like a 235 or 250 horsepower application.
So here, everybody, nags on our superchargers for being a robber of horsepower, and you guys are over there with an injection pump that takes like 250 plus horsepower to turn at speed.
Well, it depends what kind of restriction you have on it, right? Like that's kind of what it's a hydraulic system, and the injector's the relief valve. There's nothing else other than something's going to break. So it can get crazy.
So when you do that, and you have the injectors in like a manifold, will you pressurize the manifold to equal PSI of what the intake pressure will be when going down the track, just to get an adequate flow rate?
No, it's just blasting into that block. And then that runs back to the tank. Like you don't have anything crazy like trying to build, because that's not going in the intake, that's going in the cylinder. That's injected into the cylinder, and the cylinder pressure in that thing.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. It's like an atomic bomb.
Oppenheimer there on the graph to see where that.
Why would it stay together? That's what we always say. Why would it stay together?
But it does. It's a miracle.
Yeah, when it does, it's awesome. Yeah.
So take a guy like Colin Ross, for instance, that's taken that pump to 6,000, or 3,000 pump speed, but 6,000 RPMs. It has to kind of make your job easier for guys that don't run near as many RPMs. Correct? It kind of solidifies that the pump can withstand it.
Well, so I guess what the point of that whole thing was, when we built that stand, we got the stand to where we could run the pump harder than the customer could, and that's helped. You know what I mean? Like, I've got to be able to run that, harder than they can, so we can run a lot of RPM. And we can sustain it for. I mean, I could hold it there a long time if I really wanted to, but we usually run like 15-second bursts on the pump. And like I said, typically we kind of get an idea, like if it's a pro stock pump, we're on at 15 seconds at 5,500. They're not, there's not too many pro stock passes that are going to look like that.
If they do, they're probably not going anywhere.
Yeah. And the super stock, like the 6,000 is kind of the plateau. No, some of the pickup truck stuff, they get crazier than that.
Sure.
The Cummins killer guys, they like to get a little crazy. But yeah, it definitely, you get it to work on for Colin and Jody. It's probably going to be good. Yeah. Yep.
So this is going to be maybe a tough question to answer, but you said the injection pump is basically like a little engine on the side of it. For those people that don't really know what's all going on inside there, without getting too intricate, walk us through the basic functions of how an injection pump works.
So yeah, I would almost say if you were comparing it to an engine, it'd almost be like a 2-cycle. But you've got a plunger and barrel. That's your main pumping element, whatever you want to say. That's where your real precision fit comes, because it's like a piston in a cylinder, but there's no rings. So it's just the fit. As it comes down, it opens a port, camshaft down below that with a tappet driving it up. And as that rotates, brings that plunger up, closes that port off. Up above, there's a delivery valve. It opens the valve and pushes fuel out the top. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, if you want to, simplifying it, obviously. It's more to it. Obviously, there's you hear about the rack sticking. So there's a control rack that hooks all the plungers together, essentially. And for the plungers to meter the fuel, they're all rotating. So if one of the plungers quits going up and down, like seizes, that's gonna stick, hang the rack. The rack's not gonna move. That's where you'd have runaways and stuff like that a lot. Prior to the DLC coatings, that was really common. Like just as I was getting into building pumps, we kind of discovered that DLC coating, and the stuff was like magic. Like, because it would go from like, you'd have almost like a pump a weekend. I didn't have that much stuff out there, and there'd be something somewhere was sticking a plunger. It would seize a plunger for whatever reason, and you'd have to tear the pump apart, fix it, hope it didn't do it again. Started the DLC coating on the plungers, and it was like, went away. It's like,
and that DLC
does that stand for diamond-like coating?
Carbon, yeah. Diamond-like carbon, I think they call it, or coating. Okay, yeah, but it's a super hard, real slippery, low coefficient of friction coating that basically just keeps the two metals from, that's running so fast in there. And like I said, the clearance is down to microns. Like, you're talking like 4 and 5 microns clearance between the plunger and the barrel, and they just weld together. They're not enough.
We used to run them on our valves, and here's how slick they are. If you put them on the bead groove, because like on a valve up where the keepers are on the top, it's a bead lock groove. If you ran diamond-like coating or carbon DLC coating on the tips where the keepers were, and titanium coated keepers, it was so slick between the two that it would drop the valve, because the keepers could not. They're so slick that it would pull the keepers from the groove. But it's amazing what those coatings can do. It'll take a titanium valve that will eventually over time, start to wear, and it starts to show the seat. If you put the coating on there, you never know when the valve's bad because it never looks bad. Like the valve looks brand new all the time. So it's kind of a good thing because it doesn't tear up anything, but it's kind of bad because people look at the parts and go, well, the part still looks good. We need to keep running it. And you have to change it because it's cycle time.
So I just want to say, you had said 4 or 5 microns, and there's a lot of ignorant people like myself listening to this. I just gave that a quick Google search. So the average human hair is about 70 microns in diameter. And you're saying the clearance is 4 to 5 microns.
Yeah. Yeah, it's virtually nothing. Everything's got to be really straight,
That means you could basically take that clearance and stack it up 14 times, and that would equal the diameter of a human hair. Holy shit.
That sounds right.
They say human hair's 3,000ths, roughly, give or take. A human hair's roughly 3,000ths.
I just know, but you have to think that thing's going to make, it's one of the things we've been working on, and I've been busy, don't get on it as good as I should, but monitoring the pressure on these things. There's not many people monitoring actually what the fuel pressure is doing, but I'm sure what we were seeing with what Colin was doing, it was taking all that power. You could be making 25,000 or 30,000 pounds of pressure. Wouldn't be a crazy number, and there's nothing sealing that. Like I said, just the fit. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, you take an oil pump with a drill and spin an oil pump over just with our 60 weight oil, and it'll grab the drill and just turn it. So I couldn't even imagine, like you said, 250 horsepower engine can't turn over a pump because it's so tight.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Like I said, yeah. When it hits, it's violent. It's not a smooth pressure. It's a violence. And that's what a lot of guys that can be hard on gear trains and the front of the crankshaft and all that stuff. I mean, so sometimes there's a happy medium, making just a pump quicker, sometimes can cause some grief, on engine parts. But.
I hear a lot about now that the turbos are so good and the pumps are so good. Like the big thing now is guys can't get enough water to the engine, right? And you guys also do. Yeah, you hear guys of overdriving pumps, and then they're getting to this thing like Ross's and Chaos is doing, to where belt driven, it's kicking belts off these things left and right because the pressures are getting too high and the pumps are just demanding too much that a belt cannot no longer take the stress. So now they're gear driving this stuff. You guys are pretty big into the water side of stuff now. Do you manufacture water? Stay away from it.
No, I probably, I don't need another project, but there's definitely necessity, right?
So you're basically saying that somebody out there that's listening and that's looking at manufacturing, get into the water side of things because there's an untapped venue there that hasn't really been attacked.
Everybody's using just basically a hydraulic pump, right? And pumping water with it, there's probably some room for improvement there, no doubt. And it's not that scientific, they're essentially, everybody's using either sprayer nozzles or your alcohol nozzles and blasting it in the intake and hoping for the best. That's
I have to say, last couple of years, I've actually, from one of the stuff that we've learned in the alcohol engines, I've kind of told some of my buddies about it in the diesel world, and I give them some of these spray nozzles and stuff that we've been using since 2015, 2016. And hey, like you said, it's almost feels like you're selling drugs because they're
good stuff.
Can we get some more? Don't tell nobody, but could you send me some more of those?
I may have heard tell of that. Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Pretty awesome.
It's probably sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, that's right.
But there's no, that's one of those things that there's not much, it's hard to tell where the stuff's going, right? The water could be running rogue. Sometimes I get frustrated because guys will be like, oh, I think the pump's messing up because we're dropping this cylinder or this is happening. But we're looking at the injection pump. So not only do we have that 250 horse stand, but we have another stand that we run it on first, and we're looking at how even the cylinders are and looking at CCs, and we've got this pretty good, pretty scientific, and we're running it with their injectors, and and in the meantime, the water is just nobody knows. It's just we're just blowing it in there. We're hoping for the best, and the airflow, I'm like, it's probably a water problem, like usually I'm telling guys, I'm like, but sometimes there could be something wrong with the pump, but typically what you get, what you run into is water getting carried to a cylinder, and on the intercooled stuff, it's bad, like the pro stocks and stuff, like, because the air is so cold and you start putting all that water in the port, and instead of being steam, you've got water, and then the cylinders do not like to eat that, so it'll try to put the fire out on the cylinder with water, and
Gotcha.
you'll hear
So
that.
I have a question. I have a good question for you, because I'm an engine builder,
Yeah.
and like you just said, like, guys come at you and ask, like, oh, well, why is it doing this? It's got to be something that you're doing. It's like, no, actually, it's probably something else. But what is one of the biggest myths in your guys's, like, let's say, like, turbo inlet, like, it's got to be in the center of all the cylinders, you can't have it on the ends? Like, what are some of the big myths that you would just say that's total BS? Do you have any of those?
I'm trying to think of something good. Only thing that could come to my mind while you were saying is, we always laugh at the shop about the injection pump is the magic box on the side of the engine. Because when there's a problem, they unbolt that and send it in, and they're like, it must be the pump. I don't know. It's gotta be. But I think that, sometimes just because you can unbolt it easy, and here, hope this fixes
so
it. So
basically what you're saying is, guys, listen to what the guy says. Yeah, if you guys think you guys got a problem with your pump, send it in. We'll test it. We'll charge you all you want to, but it's probably not the problem.
Always tell Alex that I feel like the customer's always right until they aren't. So I ride it out. He's the opposite. He's like, nope, it's probably not the issue. I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with it. But we go back.
What percentage on those pumps could you say are actually, out of every pump you touch, is actually a failure or a defect, something needs to be fixed?
I don't know. I would say, especially
1%.
No, it's probably 10% of the time that there might be a problem with it, but maybe not even that. I don't, like I said, there's a lot of times that it's not a pump problem, right? There's a lot of other stuff. But yeah, I don't know any good turbo myths.
Dude, there's so many myths to, like, building an engine. Like, some people say that, oh, you can't put oil on the rings because they won't seal, or you have to do this, or you have to do this in order for, you got to grind both sides of the ring to make sure that they're right. And I'm like, guys, you guys are making a lot bigger story out of stuff than what it really is. I mean, that's basically what I was trying to get to. So
like I said, I don't know. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of stuff flies around. I don't know. We probably a lot of different stuff with crossover pipes and stuff, I'd say, that I probably have seen a lot of different stuff and never really saw much supporting it. You know what I mean? Like, guys will run, like, we have the long pipe and we have the short pipes, and we have guys with 5-inch plumbing and 4-inch plumbing and 3. I don't know. It don't
there's
seem
nothing
like
there. There's not enough there to support their theory, basically.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff that runs really good on all fronts of it, I guess. That's what I always say. Like,
gotcha.
There's a lot of different stuff that works.
Is it true that the injection lines all have to be equal length because the fluid pressures are so high that even though you're dealing with like a steel tube, that tube can slightly expand, so a shorter line will produce more fuel than a longer line?
I think that it would be a timing change is what you would see. Like, you'd see a variance in timing, due to, like you say, the line swell. So that was a big thing, like, in the last couple of years. Guys are moving the injection pumps back to run short lines. So, like,
and get the links more even, correct? Like, to put it in the center.
Well, it's easier. Probably you could say it may be easier to run. Yeah, you don't have. So let's say, like, on a John Deere, a lot of times you have around like a 28-inch line that just barely makes it to number 6. But then when you're at number 1, you're like, whoa, I got all this line to deal with, you know? So it makes that easier. But yeah, typically they should be the same length. But then I've saw stock engines before that had just whatever fit, like,
Yeah.
and then they ran fine. You know what I mean?
Well,
they were, man, they probably, you know.
My theory on the thing is almost looking like at a header. Everyone's like, oh, you got to have equal headers. You know, your headers have to be equal length coming out, and there when they go into the collector. By the time you put all, okay, that's fine. I totally understand that. But when you got one line that's straight, that's running down in 45 and over, whatever it is, and then you got one over here making S bends, it's like there's no way those two lines can possibly flow the exact same.
Yeah, I don't know. I never tried it, I guess. Maybe we should put them on a stand like that and see if we can see a difference.
Well,
I'll tell Alex it's a project tomorrow.
there you go.
You just said you had enough projects.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy one. You just bend some shit around
We're
and
not
make it
allowed
work.
to have projects.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Question I had, and this has been amazing, Jim. Thanks for your time and for filling in. This is very educational, I guess, for a turbo dummy, as I would probably lightly call myself. The typical pro stock turbo, is there a certain number that you circle in terms of the amount of runs you'd like to get out of one of them, or is it just kind of a case by case scenario, or you not want to answer that?
It depends how you run it, right? Like, I told Jason Rounds, I said, you guys like to, you know, like a lot of guys, I tell them, lick the lollipop. Those guys would take a bite out of it, you know. Like, he got on me about that, but I was like, you know, you should get you know, those guys can get a good bit of running out of a pro stock turbo if you keep it within the parameters. You know, depending on the wheel size and stuff, the shaft speeds. You know, that's one thing that we probably, you know, that we learned in this monitoring shaft speed. We monitor discharge temperature out of the cover to kind of figure out where we need it for water, you know, and that was kind of some stuff we figured out along the way. But that goes a long ways in the durability, you know. Then we do run water through the bearing housings on the big pro stock stuff because it definitely helps. Like when that exhaust housing so heavy, and if that thing's glowing, and say especially like if you're at Louisville or an indoor pool and you have to shut it off, all that iron's hot and it would heat soak. Yeah, it would heat soak into the center section. So they run a circulating pump, run water through the bearings, through the housing, the center housing, and that keeps the bearings cooled off. That was a lot of the old Columbus turbos. They were just they had machined it out and put a ball bearing unit in the Holset housing, which was pretty ingenious at the time, but it was cooking the back bearing. Like the one over by the exhaust wheel, you'd take it apart. You guys know that burnt oil smell, like
it's terrible.
Yeah.
The death smell. As soon as you'd open it, you'd get that, like, oh,
the smell when you know something's broke.
Yeah, exactly. We take that apart in an engine, that's bad. Yeah. So I guess to answer that question, that could be anywhere from, you know, 1 run to 50. You know what I mean? I've had guys with, especially some of the older pro stock stuff, that told me they're over 100 runs on. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
What do you say to a guy? Because I have the same kind of thing. I built an engine for a guy. He goes out there and he's got the main jet set wrong, and it burns a piston or it throws a rod out of it. The thing had absolutely nothing to do with it myself. What do you tell these guys? Like, a guy bolts these new turbos on, and obviously heat's probably the reason. If they get too hot, they overspeed.
There can be variables, like I said. Like the big thing, typically the engines in the pro stock tractor world, they're not going to be very happy with real high exhaust temperatures. Like they're going to have piston problems before they have turbo problems based on that. Like our exhaust side's not going to be a problem, but intake temperatures is where the problem, like, because when your boost pressure is so high with a single stage, like a lot of people probably don't grasp, I guess. We're pretty used to it, but how elevated those temperatures will become coming out of the cover. Like I've probably had pro stock guys tell me that I guess I don't know what the record is. I want to say I've heard 850-ish, 850 degrees coming out of the compressor. So it's hard to wrap your mind around, that it would make that kind of heat. But an aluminum compressor wheel, obviously, as it gets hot, the strength's going to become a problem.
Of course. So when you had referenced shaft speed, what kind of shaft speed do you try to stay under?
Well, like I said, it depends a little bit on the size. Like our older stuff that was smaller, we were in the realm of 90s, Now we're probably more in the 70s,
And you're
that's
talking
1,000. That's 1,000.
Yeah, 70,000. And I mean, you got to remember that's a turbine that probably, with a pretty large back, would be over 8 inches on the back diameter.
That's like a gyroscope. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a little barbell. You know what I mean? Like when you're carrying it around, both those. You picture those wheels spinning that fast is insane. But
that's unfathomable, really.
Yeah, and I mean, like even a lot of our smaller stuff, we've gotten slowed down some and still make good power. Like that's kind of what we focused on the last few years, is trying to get shaft speed slower and more power. Always seems like it's a good thing if you can make that happen.
Efficiency.
Sustainable, I'll say.
So you mentioned your test stand for your injection pumps. What does a test stand look like for, a turbo?
That's the engine, man. I balance stuff and put her on them. I mean, they make gas stands, but I've had guys telling me that they dabbled with that, and it was like a wormhole. You know what I mean? Like, and it's even like if you start doing like, I'm sure your engines are kind of the same way. If you start looking at how things are supposed to be, like we're way off the map. You know what I mean? Like they have compressor maps, and this is all supposed to work like this, and everything we're doing is just shouldn't work. It's impossible.
but you've snuck up on it and it's working. You've just pushed the envelope a little bit more.
What did I always say? I said, it's for intermittent use. Yeah. Yes. Very intermittent. Not going to run all day.
All right. So in our world, in our class, the mini rod class, turbochargers are legal. There are a few people trying to make them work, and it looks like a struggle. It looks fun. It's fun to watch. It looks like it sucks to fix the chassis all the time. What's the secret behind making that work in a non-fuel or non-electronic fuel injected scenario running on alcohol?
I don't know, man. I told you I don't know much about spark plugs. I've got one guy at the shop that's got one of those small block mini. I've been trying to talk him into it, but he's just naturally aspirated right now.
Well, see, dude, I'm an engine builder. I got 3 mini rods. I've always thought a couple years ago it'd be pretty neat. The biggest thing I think would be weight, but everybody's like, well, you don't have the big supercharger up there hanging on, but there is a lot of other stuff that you have to have. The headers are a lot heavier and a lot more intricate.
And awesome. I mean, I don't know what size you would need. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what size you're talking about.
It's a 550 cubic inch engine.
You're trying to make how much power?
60 pounds of boost is what.
No. Oh yeah, Tyler. Those things would easily make 95 pounds of boost in one of these engines pretty easily.
Not necessarily though. No, because you're going to eat a lot of air. I mean, it just depends how big a turbo you're talking about. How much horsepower?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like our superchargers only produce around 50 pounds of boost.
Right, but
remember,
you have a big air pump there. You've only got like 500 inches, but you're turning what kind of RPM?
We're regulated on our supercharger speed. We're at 45% over. So, like for a guy like myself that likes to run around that 8,000 RPM range, we're up there in the 12,000.
Right, but I mean the engine's running 8,000, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I mean, if I look at it, like I got to think about it in diesel terms. Like a 540 cubic inch light pro is, they're going to turn 5,000 RPMs, right?
Right.
And they're going to make no intercooler or anything. They're going to make depending on the guy, let's say 100 to 120 pounds of boost, but you're gonna you're eating a lot more air than they are. You're spinning
Right.
twice as fast almost. So it would lower that boost, but the horsepower always seems like it stays fairly relevant to compressor wheel size. You know what I mean? Like if it supports, 2,800 horsepower there, it probably supports it there. But it would be cool. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I see gas motors. There's a lot of V8 stuff. They put one on each bank, and I don't know. I don't know how.
Yeah, I really thought it would be neat. The guy he passed away here in 9/11, but the first car that they ran back in the day was a turbocharged drag car, and then they obviously went to the supercharger stuff just because of the simplicity of it. I mean, they are super easy to tune and stuff, but I've kind of had that itch of just to do it because it would be because I haven't seen anybody really do it successfully, and I'm not taking that away from any of the guys. Like Gene Zeltner's really coming onto things. Mike's doing really good with It's No Joke. I mean, there's some guys up there, Sean Whedon and stuff. They've been doing really good up in Wisconsin, really building some pretty neat stuff. So I always thought it'd be kind of neat to throw a turbo on one of these and see what they could really do, because I think they would make so much more power. But I think we've come to a point in the pulling world in the mini rod class where I don't think you could ever use all that power.
I would love
that doesn't seem like it would be a restriction. You could put the turbo out front, I suppose. Maybe that would be some advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. Tyler seems to think otherwise there, maybe, I guess.
You can have it out front, right? Like that would help some.
Right.
Yeah. No, I like the thought of it. I love watching guys try, and I have the utmost respect for those who do. And I fantasize about the idea of trying it, even though it means just rolling things over and making a new chassis and rolling things over again and messing everything all up. Like that's badass. Like I feel like those guys are just pushing the envelope. Like I love
Constantly.
it. Yeah, that's a different world, like I said.
Okay,
you're not saying no, you're saying there could be a chance one day.
We'll try anything, like I said. We put a pro stock turbo out front if you want. I mean,
yeah, I think Waylon needs a mini rod, is what we're learning here.
Got one for sale. This one right behind me over here. We'll make it happen.
He laughed at least. He was over there digging around for food, I think.
Is he cleaned the fridge already?
Mini rod.
Got one for you. I don't know what your favorite color is, but I can paint it any color you want.
Start with something with smoke at least.
Well, we put diesel in it too.
Oh. Yeah.
No.
Waylon, what do you think? Are you going to drive a pulling vehicle one day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite class? Waylon?
Pro stock.
Yeah.
Pro stock. Oh,
who's your favorite
good one
pro
to get
stock?
into?
Favorite pro stock?
Ooh, loaded question.
You got to pick one.
Let them name three.
There are repercussions for your answer. You know that, right? You're going to get hounded by people.
Probably.
You get to name three.
Give us your Mount Rushmore. Give us
your
four.
Top three. 4 pro stock pullers. 4 favorite pro stock pullers. Who can you come up with?
Carlton.
That's
Carl
first.
Cope.
I don't know if that's first.
Oh, okay.
In no
He's
specific
not putting them in
order.
order. He's not starting an order yet.
He's a negotiator. I like it.
Yeah, I like this.
Who else do you have?
Carlton, who's next?
Link.
Oh,
John Link, what's up?
John Link gets the mention. John
Revelation
Link
Pro, right?
Have a little, they've had some go rounds, I should say.
Hey, he's been on the No Practice podcast.
Yeah, you got to love
Yep,
John Link.
yes.
He's a character.
Yep. All right, 2 more. Warpath, Revelation Pro, and we need 2 more.
We'll do Robbie Lemke.
Oh,
Of course.
Another No Practice Podcast alumni.
that's right.
New Generation Plus. Last one. No pressure, Waylon. Think about all the friends and people are going to be calling you tomorrow.
Oh. So you going workhorse?
Oh,
Last but not least.
Oh,
Ooh, Rob
Yeah.
Russell.
Rob Russell.
Rob Russell.
I don't know though. It's a long list. Waylon's got a lot of friends.
The other dude.
Well, considering the whole class runner stuff, there's a lot of people to pick from.
Oh, Russell.
He's just too crazy.
Russell gets the mention. Right? Waylon says Russell's too crazy. Hildebrand.
A little bit.
A little too far.
Waylon, he was on this podcast one time, but we have to wait till you're 18 to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke.
He's had the full experience.
Well, he's
right.
been.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. Waylon, thanks for your commentary there. That's fun information to know.
Yeah.
Waylon, you have a favorite? Sorry, Tyler.
Oh no, go ahead, Chase.
Do you have a favorite super stock puller? You can only name one though.
You know who that is? Cat Payne.
Oh yes,
Super Rooster. I like it. He looked at his dad's eyes and said, "You know who this is?
You know it.
The guy that smokes cigarettes and drinks Bud Light."
I think that's what it is that gets Waylon. He talks about the cigarette one.
That's funny.
I love it. Waylon, one of my favorite things about this show is getting to learn something about somebody that is non-tractor pulling. Like, it's a topic that's non-tractor pulling related. Like, we learned one tractor puller used to like raise baby rabbits when they were younger. Is there something about Jim that you can tell us that, like, in the tractor pulling world, not that many people know about him? It can just be a silly thing in his day-to-day life. He's thinking.
He's thinking about his next chore.
Kids say the darndest things.
It can be silly. It doesn't have to be important.
Well, he doesn't drink much.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why he's such a focused individual.
Compared to my Uncle Steve, at least.
Throw Uncle Steve under the bus on that one.
There we go. That's good.
I like it.
Like, he isn't like secretly. So you guys are from Pennsylvania. Like, secretly, is he like a Baltimore Ravens fan or something, and not a?
He has a pulling tractor.
I figured so.
Yeah.
This isn't it, by the way.
I was going to say, whose is that?
No, this is actually one of the guys that Mark is his name. He works at the shop now, he's retired, so he comes to the shop to support his habits.
Of course.
And
I'm going to work.
He wanted to pull at Bowling Green, like that was on his bucket list, right? Like, so, and he's pulling this forward, and I'm like, oh. How are we gonna get? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I should have talked to some spark plug guys and did a light super, but instead we decided we were gonna make it a super farm. So, yeah, we got it together last year. Just after Bowling Green, we got the engine going. With the help of Robbie, did some nice stuff, cylinder head, and worked with Brian Scott, Prairie Performance. And like I said, a lot of good people got it running, ran good, made a bunch of dyno passes, and we were excited. And first pass broke the crankshaft.
Oh,
so it's back in my garage. We put it back together, and he got another pass out of it and got a piston, which wasn't totally shocking with what we had going on. That was a billet crank. Didn't have another crankshaft. Of course, you're not gonna call Summit and get a crank. So we had a welded crank to put in it. Had a welded crank to put in it to go run again, and he did get a decent pass out of it. And now I'm waiting on the new crank supposed to be here in a couple weeks. So exciting.
So let's say you take
it's here, and my tractor's at Carlton's actually.
I gotcha. So let's say it's Bowling Green weekend, and the whole weekend's finished with. Who doesn't care what time it is to call you with a problem, and what time would that be?
Ooh.
Oh, who would be? I don't know that it matters, right? Like Bowling Green weekend, it could be anybody, right? Like, I don't know.
Most unique phone call that you've got in the middle of the night.
I've been lucky. I don't know that I've really had anything that crazy.
Never had to bail anyone out of jail or anything?
No, Probably
Out of the campground now.
probably running around with the bootlegger gang. At Bowling Green's probably a lot to keep up with, I'll say. That can be,
Yeah, you got to get
Yeah.
them and Russ together.
a good time. Ross is usually gets himself like hopefully he can get out of it, but he's like ends up sick at Bowling Green. Like the last couple times he's been there, he's like got COVID or something.
Oh, damn.
Okay,
I think he gets a little stressed out.
Well, maybe.
that's fair.
It's hard on the body.
He's got to deliver. I mean, people expect things out of him there.
Yeah, well, I mean, Russ is one of my favorites. I do enjoy Russell Hildebrand is a good time.
I'm a big fan myself, for sure. With all this mechanical knowledge and making and building horsepower, aside from truck and tractor pulling, do you have a vehicle in your life that you have kind of upped the capacity on and, has more horsepower than what it had stock that you run around town with?
No, not really. It's kind of crazy. So I drive a 06 Dodge that I don't know. I've been like completely through, but I don't really try to make any crazy power for it. You know what I mean? Like it's just pretty stock. I think I see too much stuff like tore up from guys like driving. You know what I mean? Like I get that's like probably one of the worst things is like you get this guy. He's like, I want to have twin turbos. I want 1,200 horsepower, and I'm gonna need to tow with it.
Yeah, daily driver for sure.
Yeah, good luck. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not possible. And then this summer was a '87 Suzuki Samurai was my new hot rod. So
okay, I can get down with that.
Definitely not a horsepower machine.
Yeah,
I think we were trying to decide. I think it's somewhere around 65 horse.
But the horsepower to weight ratio isn't bad though. Those are pretty light. They're pretty good for off-roading. Did you do some off-roading with it?
Yeah. No, not yet. We haven't. We were thinking more as a pit vehicle.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Perfect.
It's a good candidate. We used to have a little Geo Tracker and all those little vehicles like that. They don't have much power, but they're a pretty good time. One question I always like to ask people with everything you have at your disposal, you talk about drawing stuff in SolidWorks. Like if you can dream it, you can draw it, you can make it. Has there been anything in your life outside of, what you guys do there at Weimer where you needed to make something specific for an application? You couldn't find one certain part and you're like, you know what, to heck with it. We're going to draw it. We're going to make it. And I'm going to have this trinket to use right here. And at the end of the day, you probably shouldn't have spent that much time on it, but you know what? Perfect fit for it.
I think Steve probably does that more than me, like he probably has got himself into some situations like that I've seen. Typically he shoots me down on that. He's like, are you crazy? Like, but
do you got a good story that Steve did?
I'm sure I have.
Do you have a good story that Steve did, like made a billet, handle for an old bathroom faucet or anything?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure. I feel like he's definitely was into making some stuff that might not have made that much sense. He's been messing with this. He's been on this 4-wheeler kick.
My 4-wheeler. It's mine.
That's yours. Oh, that's a different project. But
what's Steve doing on a
4-wheeler?
He's got a couple.
Yeah, he's got a Banshee that he's messing with to get a bunch of power out of. And
Turbo Banshee?
No turbo on it yet, but he takes it out and blows it up and then, tears it back apart. And we laugh.
What about the other one he's making me?
Yeah, he's got a Raptor that he's putting a Banshee engine in for Waylon, he says. They're working on that.
2 strokes for life.
Yeah, he's into the 2-stroke hard.
I love it.
That power band.
He used to have a Quadzilla 500, didn't he?
Yeah. We're into that. We did some of that in our younger days, like I said. But I don't get a lot. I have 3 boys, so Waylon's the oldest, he's 11, middle one's 10, Harlan, and Ziggy is 6. So 3 boys keep me pretty busy, like
I don't have really 4-wheelers, but this will be my first 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
I have dirt bikes.
Waylon's the dirt bike guy.
Very nice.
It's good to
very
start
nice.
out on the cycle first. Gives them a appreciation for understanding balance instead of just throwing them on a four-wheeler.
Yeah, he's good with it. He's pretty good. Not bad.
Jim,
Doesn't
this has
crack
been
too much.
it's been a great visit with you, and obviously we could probably make this hours and hours of just picking the knowledge of Weimer. But it's kind of a final sign off. I'm sure there's a lot of prospective customers, or even who knows who. If anyone wants to get in touch with Weimers or look into the turbo business, not that you need business, but what's a proper way of getting in touch with someone?
I mean, there's a multitude. Like I said, you can call the shop. Obviously, that works. Email. The other option, I mean, I've got a lot of guys that I work with, right? Like we talk about, like the Robbie Lemkes and the Brian Scotts and the Chaos. A lot of the different guys, and depending on what world, like I've got guys that are in the semi world, and I've got guys that are in the pickup truck world, and a lot of times it's almost easier if you're dealing through them because they know all this. I don't want to say stupid questions, but they kind of know all the information, right? Like I can tell Robbie may know, he knows how much water to put in front of the turbo. He knows where all this needs to be, or like I said, depending on the person, but that helps a lot, with the network of actually trying to get stuff accomplished, I'll say,
Makes sense.
where they can, it's not like, it becomes a lot to try to coach everybody through it. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
No, that was actually going to be
one person, then that kind of streamlines it a little bit.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be my one question to you. Obviously, in the past 10 years, you've blown up, and I didn't know if there was like a question you get asked often, or I'm sure you have to pick up the phone a lot of times and maybe say, I'm really not the guy for that. Maybe you should talk to this guy. So basically what you're saying is you're willing to help anybody, but if there's certain avenues that you can maybe get in contact with these guys and they might be able to help you a little further.
A lot of times, like if you're dealing with a particular engine builder or something and they've worked with it, they know a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like they're going to think of a lot of things in that particular application that I'm not even thinking about. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm dealing with it on a broader spectrum, and maybe even thinking of it as something we assume, or but it's probably geared a little bit more that direction than it has been, like not like a distributorship, but it almost becomes more that way, right?
Yeah. There's certain questions that you cannot answer, and correct. I mean, like when people call you, I'm sure you get that a lot. Like, I'm not really the guy for that. Maybe you should contact these guys. I was basically just trying to put out there. Your phone has to be blowing up constantly because you do have the hottest thing in the diesel world. It seems like every good puller, even any of the pullers across the ranks, it seems like they use your products for their performance. And I just, if there was a question that you get asked often that maybe you could answer on air, or there was a common thing that you constantly gets asked that you could kind of put out there that people would know, that's kind of what my question.
My turbo is leaking oil. That's my favorite. Turbo's leaking. Because I blew the seals out of the turbo. That's the one I want to talk about, actually.
Go ahead. That's what it's for.
That's what we're here for.
Everybody's thinking that, like if I don't know if you guys have ever had a turbo apart, but there is no seal per se. There's a piston ring at each end on the shaft.
Right.
That's sealing, but the job of that piston ring is to keep the boost pressures from entering the oil side, and the oil has to get down the drain and out of there without pulling up. It can't, if the turbo fills with oil, it's just going to leak out the ends. So typically, if a turbo is leaking oil, there's a reason. It's not the turbo, it's flooding with oil. It's filling up and it's going to leak. And that's the hardest one. Like Your drain, if your drain's plugged, if the crank isn't venting, if your oil drain's going back in too low into the pan and the oil level's above it, sometimes they're on dry sumps and they have some sort of vent problem and it's not draining. Like I said, I've seen a multitude of different problems, and I don't care if it's like on stock stuff, on pulling vehicles, but rarely is it actually the turbo the reason that it leaks oil. Usually there's
Perfect.
something else. So that's the one that I'll say is probably the one that the girls know out front that when I hear that, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be like,
well, let's just hope that,
especially if the turbo is new, right? Like if you just put this turbo on, and then better yet is if the turbo I took off was leaking oil and this one are leaking oil. That's the other one that really gets me.
perfect. That was the whole idea for that question. I wanted you to be able to say, hey, look, please don't call me and ask this question because I know it's not my fault.
Hey, Tyler, want to prank somebody tomorrow?
Yeah, Jim, this is Clark. My turbo's leaking oil.
This damn thing's brand new. It's leaking.
Yeah, the last 3 have leaked. I don't know what's wrong.
It's weird.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, that's exactly what I was asking for because I know I get these questions all the time. Like I go into these shows and people are like, how much power does it make? And I've actually built a board that has all the information of all the questions that everybody asks repetitive. And I have no problem answering it, but it's just like every time, like, no, you cannot put this in your truck. Yes, it would break everything in it. Like it's the same answer every time.
The other one is always a little bit difficult is like, well, how much boost should that turbo make? Well, that's all relative, right? Like relative to the engine, you know what I mean? Like,
sure,
it's just a measurement of restriction, and like I said, you don't know. There's a million variables to that. So that's another one that's like that's just impossible to answer. So
that's good.
Good stuff.
All right, Jim, do you have any questions for us before you leave? I always like to give people that opportunity before we tell them goodbye.
And can we designate Adam as the turbo point guy if someone with a spark plug wants to get a turbo, just call Adam.
Yeah, I'll point him in that direction.
Get him going that way. Like I said, I don't know. The turbos would definitely make him quieter. I'd like that, but
yeah. Okay.
I guess not a big noise guy.
I don't want to discredit this amazing interview to this point, Jim.
If you want to delete money, you give money to him, and then I'll put it on an engine. I guarantee you, we'll make something happen.
Yeah, it would. We could probably make some. We can make it quieter for sure.
Yeah, we could probably burn more aluminum than Alcoa. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. But no, I'd say, like I said, I don't get. Like I said, I don't get into the alcohol stuff. I get into some alcohol tractor stuff a little bit, and I get, they start talking about magnetos and better coils and that stuff. I'm like, I don't know.
No, anybody. The big thing about these engines right here, and it's the same thing that you said earlier. The injection pump, let's say that's the engine. It really doesn't matter. The power adder is the supercharger. You can take a bad blower and put it on a really good engine, and you're only going to have a mediocre engine. You can take a really good blower and put it on a mediocre engine. It's going to be a pretty decent engine. You put a good blower on a good engine, you're going to have a good piece. But it basically revolves around that supercharger. It's kind of like what you said with the turbo.
So that's one question I have. Like, how much is that technology evolving?
Well, I would say probably in the late 2000s, there was really a peak where there was like let's say Darren Mayer came out with the M5, right? And that kind of shot, 200 horse gains. Like things really got up there. And then it plateaued, right? And then in the last couple of years, like SSI, they did some stuff with their rotors and boom, theirs really shot up there. And guys have done some things with some fuel delivery and coatings and different tolerances on the blower and different profiles of getting the air in and out. And it's kind of changed, but we're kind of to that point again where it's kind of nobody's really just sent it back over the edge unless you're like Chase and just want to pay even more money. And he's probably got the best blower on the market with the Chuck Ford stuff. Some of those are really hard to get. They're kind of like an exclusive deal. You can lease one, and it's sealed, and there's airplane wire that tie the bolts together, so you cannot take them apart. You cannot inspect them. You can't see the intricate workings of what makes them better. But outside of that, I mean, we've kind of got to a point here where somebody's going to have to do something different to make a gain, in my belief. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think, Chase? What do you think, Tyler?
I would say what you said is accurate, and that was actually my one final question, not to take away from yours, is, you see what Chuck Ford does with sealing his blowers, and honestly, like, the industry we work in is not the performance industry, but there's a lot of people copying what other people do, and I think it's badass what Chuck does, the way he wires and seals his stuff together, because he's like, I put this together, I'll take it apart, I'll see what's inside of this. Like, I think that's pretty cool stuff. Like,
absolutely.
Do you guys, Jim, have to protect your product in a similar manner? Do you give a product to somebody and say, keep the doggone hood on your tractor shut and, don't let anybody take this apart? How do you protect that investment? Because you spend so much R&D, everybody sees the good product that you have at the end. Nobody sees the 60 ones that didn't work, that are in the scrap bin that you spent hundreds of hours on. And you finally get this one good churned out product, and you get it in the hands of the wrong guy, and now you've got somebody knocking it off that didn't have to walk through, the bed of coals behind you in the scrap bin that it took to get there. How do you protect that?
Yeah, I mean, that just comes down to a little bit of it being the trust, I guess, and kind of your back to the core group of guys that you kind of know, and maybe back to talking about those, another advantage of that, of having those dealers per se that, they know their guys. I don't know all their guys, but they've got it. They can keep them reined in, and a lot of trust, I guess, and I mean, stuff does fall in. And I mean, it comes to a point where you're like, well, like say our first Pro Stock turbos, it was like, you had that paranoia of that, you're like, I think we got something pretty good. I don't want to get it out there. And then, at some point, you've spent all that money and all that time and effort, and you got to be like, we got to get it out there, and that somebody's going to catch you, right? So you got to get it out there and cash in, so to speak, or make something, get out of the red, at least. So yeah, a little bit of it. You can't be too paranoid about it, I guess.
You can do what the celebrities do, is you can give like what they do whenever like somebody becomes pregnant, they release a bunch of baby names to different individuals. And you could release a turbo to different people, and whatever one comes out that people are coming, it's like, I know you were I know you were selling us out, you SOB, you're done. Like,
he's got the fraud.
I think
it is a tight circle, right? Like everybody knows everybody. Like everybody knows. Like you get, like there's nothing happens that doesn't make it around. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's crazy. It's a small little world.
Yeah, Chuck does a really good job with that. The more I'm in business, I can kind of see where he deals with a certain amount of people. He makes enough money to do what he wants to do in his life, and he's happy with where he's at. Right. He doesn't need to have 15, 20 employees, and he doesn't need to have all these things here and there. He's happy with where he's at. Right. But it's also a circle of people that he can trust.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to be. Like I said,
I agree.
I wouldn't, I mean, like there's Steve, like we pushed further than that, like but it's hard to say no too, is the other side of it, right? Like if you have a product and it works, and then next thing you know, like somebody's calling you like, hey, why don't you make a turbo for this other class? And we're like, I guess we could try. And then next thing it's working, and then you're like, there's only going to be a handful of them. Next thing like, man, we've done like 50 of those or 40 of those or something. You're like, wow.
And it starts to affect the other customers that you have and what you have there
it's
too.
It's just a snowball. Yeah. It's just a lot to keep up with sometimes, but we try our best. I mean, we don't do great, but like I said, we just, you got to kind of prioritize. And like I said, summertime's like I just call it like a triage unit around the shop, like you've got to figure out what project's going to happen, Some probably aren't. Yeah.
Well, if
That's
you run
pretty
out of
cool.
projects, I'll send you a supercharger idea, and you can maybe
Mhm.
start working on that for us. Maybe you can
Steve
get
was
into the supercharger
Steve was
game.
rambling about superchargers one time. It's probably been 10
Uh-oh.
years ago now. He was
Uh-oh.
like, I think you could make them things better. I'm like, oh.
I like it. I like it.
Yes, sir.
Chase, I kind of robbed you of the opportunity to comment on Adam's supercharger situation question. What's your comments on that? I didn't mean to do that.
No,
Is that fair?
I think it was a fair assessment. It's just like a lot of technology, it goes through kind of waves and so forth. And if you look at the top vehicles just in our class, if you just if there's 20 vehicles and let's just pick 5 of them, it's very likely that 5 could have 5 different engine combinations and supercharger combinations potentially, or maybe at least 4. I don't want to get down to nuts and bolts. So I do know everything's about combination. It's all highly competitive. I don't know. I personally think that it may be leveling off somewhat, but
That means
Watch
he's
out.
got some
That's when
hot
it usually
shit
goes
for
through.
us.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's when you find
Chase
that
is
next
over
level.
here. He's playing a little game, okay? He's out here running like 20% overdrive on his blowers. Me and Tyler are jacked all the way to the max of ours. We're all running ours 45.4% or 2, whatever the hell they let us run now. I can't remember. And Chase is over here. Oh, don't worry about me. I'm at 18 over. Don't worry about what I'm doing.
The best is 2-wheel drive. They run them in 50s and 60s. It's still in the 20s.
Dude, they're up in the 70s.
Yeah, but it, like we alluded to, it's a combination game. It's really a calculator can probably get you where you want to go if all your numbers add up with your combination. So that's my view on it, but I think it was well assessed for sure. So
yeah, when I said that Chuck Ford has the best blower, he's not going to disagree with that. So.
Well, all right, Jim. If you don't have anything else, we can't thank you enough for giving us your time and coming on here. And if there's anything people should take away from this, it's that the new 4.1 turbo perfectly fits the rules and is legal, and they shouldn't outlaw it, correct?
That's my feelings. I mean, like I said, it definitely meets the 2024 rules.
I love it. I love it.
I like
We'll cross our fingers that is A-OK to run next year. And
I don't need all the extra work.
And Jim, this is going to be the Weimer version of the No Practice podcast. We did some pivoting, and you slid in to the perfect. I wouldn't even call it a fill-in because you're way better than Mark Mangan would have been anyway. So
yeah,
it worked out fabulous.
I feel like I've learned a lot just talking to you. I really enjoy getting out of the box of what we normally do. I really appreciate you coming on here and kind of explaining some stuff to us and being an open book that you are. Obviously, you got a really good product out there on the market, and glad that we got you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, and congrats on your business success story. That's true American, and just telling how this started and where it's got to and how you're dominating the pulling industry. So love hearing that, and it complements well to the backdrop there of that name on your side of the tractor. So really good stuff, and congrats to you.
Take America back.
We didn't have time for paint, so Mark's
perfect, man.
It worked out.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
So it looks like that dark MAGA that they talk about.
It was tailgate stickers.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it definitely, I will throw that in there real quick. The one pass he made, he took the lead by like a couple feet. The place was packed, and I'm walking down the track, and the crowd's going crazy, and I'm like, he didn't blow it out. I was like, he got the lead by like 2 feet. Why is everybody so wound up? And then I was like, oh yeah, the stickers. So it was a good indication of the election then. So like I said,
Pennsylvania is definitely
we don't like to talk politics in this show, but couldn't help but comment on the backdrop. So
I get it. So
yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, Jim.
Appreciate it a lot.
Hey, have a happy holidays. It's great meeting you, and thanks for hopping on with us.
Yeah, same to you guys.
See you, Jim. See you, Waylon.
Thanks, Jim. How about that fill in? Mark Mangan, you did the best thing you could have done by ghosting us or me.
Hey, dude, I honestly, I've always wanted to put a name behind what was going on there because these are like, yeah, we were out there every weekend, and you hear, I want to thank Weimer for the air and fuel. Everybody's saying it, Weimer for the air and fuel, and I'm going, man, who are these guys? Because honestly, 10 years ago, you never heard of them, right? And all of a sudden, they come out of the woodwork, and they got top notch stuff. I thought that was very informative. I hope it got a little message out there to some people about maybe if they had any questions about what Weimer is. That's hope that we're trying to do the job anyways of getting them out there.
You could talk about those pumps and all that stuff. What he was saying about magnetos and coils to us, or what we do, it's I kind of get lost in a little bit. I have to go back and press rewind and have to listen again. But it's really innovative technology, and it's I bet if he really wanted to, in the drag racing world, he could probably start a whole nother branch of his business potentially. With turbo cars are big in pro mod racing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it more than anything, like if you look at like pro charger stuff back in the day, it was belt driven turbocharger, right?
Yeah.
And guys were kind of getting into it and everything, and then like it fell off like crazy, right? And then a couple years ago, there's this huge resurgence of the pro charger, and I will say 100% is because the technology that was coming from the tractor pulling world and turbo designs. Like, to me, I think that's cool to see all these guys running around and talking about, oh, we found all this big horsepower. No, you didn't. Okay. It came from the tractor pullers, these turbo. I mean, it's like Hearts and I'm not going to take, any of these guys, Hyper, Hearts, all of them that are Columbus, any of the guys that are out there, Apex, any of these companies that are out there making parts, a lot of the drag racers have stolen valor, let's say, from some of the stuff that the tractor pullers have come up with over the years.
Yeah, and it's the comment about tractor pulling customers are different than drag racing is interesting as well.
I agree. I mean, I love my drag racing customers. I love the tractor pulling side. I will say this from one side, like majority of my business has to do with tractor pulling, and it's not that I can't focus one or the other, but the group of people that we have in tractor pulling, I've finally worked so hard and put my name out there and tried to do so much to get as many customers as I can. And when you produce a decent product, like I think I do, you get a lot of people coming to you, and then you see how hard it is to stay small and stay connected to everybody. It seems like he's really got a handle on that.
Yeah, I think what we might need is to send Chase to Weimer's at some point and have him do a little shop tour. I've heard that Chase has been going around. He did a tour of Lemke's. He did a tour of Simon's. And I haven't seen these yet. Where are they going to be at, Chase?
Yeah, the All Access Series, December, there's no pulling events going on. So full pull live subscribers starting this Saturday and every Saturday the rest of the month, you'll be able to check out some behind the scenes, I think 30 minutes each, all access of the Hazley machines this Saturday, Lemke Motorsports the 21st, and then Simon Says Motorsports the 28th. I think we got a little preview we can show all you spectators right now.
Yeah, can you tease me?
Backstage plays it.
Get ready to go behind the scenes like never before with the Full Pull Live All Access Series. We're taking you inside the shop to your favorite pullers, giving you a front row seat to the power, passion, and precision that make the world of motorsports unforgettable. This 3-video event will take you deep into the heart of the pulling industry, starting with Hazley Machine on December 14th. Watch as we explore the shop that's been fueling top-level pulling performance for years. Then it's on to Lemke Performance on December 21st, where innovation and horsepower collide. See firsthand the incredible work that goes into building championship-winning machines. And finally, on December 28th, step into Simon Says Motorsports, a one-of-a-kind team that's making waves in the sport. Get up close with the crew that's turning heads. This is more than just a series. It's your VIP ticket to see the craftsmanship and dedication that powers the sport we all love. These exclusive all-access tours are available only on Full Pull Live.
Don't miss a second. Mark your calendars and get ready to experience the action like never before. Full Pull Live All Access Series, where the best of motorsports is just a click away.
Well, that
swing was hard. It was hard on my
check
health
liver light was on.
Yeah, because amazing people each stop. When you go to each stop, you had to stay up late each night, but it was all worth it. It was cool. So,
yeah, you're not going to visit those people and not crack a few beers along the way. That's for sure.
For sure. No, but that's coming out this week. Really looking forward to that. Hopefully, those are the last ones that I do myself. But I don't mind doing it. But it's something I think everyone should get to do. So maybe we can do a no practice podcast version of these shop tours in the future one day. So
I better clean mine up a little bit.
Yeah. I'd say Adam's on the list as well. So, so that's coming up this month, and then also I think we got some fan hotline. Is this a fan hotline week? Hang on. Let's go. Fan hotline.
Let's see this.
So we have a number that you can call and, leave us a voicemail. And you can leave us a voicemail any point throughout the week, and we have a voicemail that we're going to play for you right now. Right now.
And now.
You're going to hear that voicemail right now.
Take her off the mute now.
And that voicemail is going to play now.
All right.
Well, this is the No Practice Podcast, and we don't practice. We just cross our fingers that it's all going to work, and we're going to play that right now.
Yes, Randy Van Dillon. I'm from Napoleon, Ohio, and I've seen tractor pulling since the mid-'60s, and I've seen it come through the years. First Bowling Green tractor pull I was to, there was no north side. We set up scaffolding to watch the race or the poles on the north side. As far as the polls coming up in June, I can't understand why they can't get 50 mini rods and trucks to show up at that pole, because I never have a problem with that many tractors or pullers in each class at Bowling Green. To get people to show up more, I think we've tried people maybe having YouTube pages where they show them what they actually do around at the polls, like Clay Milliken does, or Cletus McFarland, or somebody. Go by their examples. Maybe you can get more sponsors through your YouTube channels. Turnaround is a big thing. When I was at Bowling Green this last year, I was talking to somebody from North Carolina. We went to Galat. He says the turnaround ratio at Bowling Green is much quicker than it is there at North Carolina. So it's just a few thoughts that I had. Been around you guys over a long time. Actually, I've seen pulling come through the years. So you guys are putting on a great show. I really like watching it. I always have a good laugh. So keep it up. Thank you.
Great call.
Love the fan hotline. Appreciate the call-ins. And we have to sort through a bunch of these and just try to pick one, but that was awesome.
So I think he's a little bit worried about why we can't get 50 trucks and 50 minis. I have talked to RJ here recently, and some more people have signed up. I think we're close to the 30 range in minis, maybe a little bit more now. The trucks are getting up there. I really don't know why. Maybe we're not getting as much interest in it as we all thought it would. I think basically it's called put your money where your mouth is. And, I think whenever you have a place like Bowling Green, it's the whole facility, everything that goes on afterwards, everything. It's not just the pool that brings in the crowd. So maybe instead of if we want to get that many people there, maybe we just need to bring that campground experience to Farley, Iowa. You know what I mean?
I would argue that the after pull experience at Farley, Iowa is almost as fun as Bowling Green, to be
I would
honest
agree.
with you, there on the ground. The big thing that I have, and I mean, this is purely speculation, why I don't think they're getting the numbers is I feel like to roll in there and throw down that entry fee, you're basically saying, I think I could win this. And I feel like tractor pullers, for whatever reason, are such a humble bunch. Nobody is very proud. Nobody is very arrogant. I mean, people like what they do. Don't take me the wrong way when I say that they're not proud, but I think some people are so timid that they're like, "Aw shucks" attitude. Like you'll have times, you'll have a guy that'll win 3 or 4 events in a season, and you'll talk to them, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, I don't have much of a shot out here, blah blah blah," and you're just like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" Like,
You've been dominating all year.
yeah, I feel like often pullers are better than how they perceive themselves, and I think with an event like this being kind of a put your money where your mouth is, roll in, you think you got what it takes to take the pot, show up and make it happen. And I think there's a lot of people with that aw shucks attitude, that just, oh, well, we just can't compete. And it's like, what do you mean you can't compete? You know damn well you got a good shot, you got good equipment, you're a smart competitor, and just, I don't know. It's strange.
In my mind, in the 2-wheel drive and the mini rod class, yes, you're going to have the people that you would expect to be at different levels of everything. But honestly, any given night, any one of these, you know what I mean? Any one of these trucks can win. And I think it just all comes down to, right time, right place. If you got a right number, if you drive it just right, you got the setup just right. If you're off just a little bit, I mean, hell, dude, we're over here scratching for every little bit that we can, and it shows at a couple pulls when you go to a Wellington, Ohio, and Ken Vinny's been on a tear for the last 3 or 4 hooks, and then he goes out there and one wheels, and then gets way down in the class. I think everybody just takes for granted, oh, Ken's going to beat us, but I think that I'm not going to sign up if I don't think I can win it. Period. I'm not going there to finish 10th. I don't think either of you guys are doing the same thing by doing that either. But like Tyler said, there are some. I don't know if we can compete. I think you can, guys. I really do. Like when I look across the board at all the pullers, there's a lot of tractors that aren't signed up for that pull that have more of a chance to win than they think they do. And
exactly.
I think
exactly. There's people that aren't on that list that if I was leading a pull and half the class was left, there's people not on that list that if I knew that they had to run after me, I'd be like, shit, they're probably going to beat me.
Right.
And they're not even signed up. It blows my mind. That's my opinion on that. As far as like the YouTube channels, like he was saying, I think he's absolutely right. I think it'd be great for the sport for more competitors to post, short videos throughout the week, in between events, showing what it takes. And I think the reason you don't see more of that is because, we're busy doing it, and it's hard to film it.
Have a PR team.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose that's probably on us because if we really wanted to, you could set up a tripod and make it happen and edit it out. Yeah. But I mean, usually when it comes to the heart of the season, man, it's hell just doing what we do and keeping things going. Right. But I guess that's just me making excuses.
I think it's I think he raises a great point though. And I think I'm the world's worst with our team page, or we don't.
Mine too, dude.
I don't even know, but he's right on. We all need to probably do our part and promote what we're doing. I know that's not really our personality to promote ourselves, but the people want to see what we have going on, and just look what this podcast has done. It's a commitment for us to do this, but I mean, our audience grows like a snowball every show.
I keep saying like, okay, each one of these guys have taken the time off one time or another. It's my time anytime, but I keep coming back because I don't want to be the guy that misses it, because I feel like it's my duty, because I do not do a good job. I try to put social media stuff out there, and Shell really wants me to push that. Like if I get on TikTok or whatever, Kester Racing on TikTok, if you go to my page, you'll see like, if you see me running a part on a machine, it's usually because I'm proofing the part the first time through, and you have to stand there and watch it the whole time. It's a perfect time to record yourself because you're not doing anything. You're just basically paying attention to the machine, make sure it's not going to crash. But I feel that I come up short a lot because I'm not going to set up a tripod in my shop and just have a video of me working. And it's almost impossible for you to stand there with your phone while you're trying to do something and talk through it. But you don't realize, like, just a few racers out there that do that and what it does for not just their fan base, but the total fan base of the sport. Like, there's a lot of really hardworking people out there, and I have to put on myself. I apologize. I don't put any more social media out there than I do, but I'm also the guy that's doing most of the work. And I think you guys are too. And it's hard to kind of do both at the same time. I think we all try to get a little bit better at doing that. But I mean, dude, we're listening to you. We're trying. That's why we're doing this. You know,
there you go.
This is our podcast.
This is our part of it. It is cool to see teams like, you know, it's no joke with their Turbo Mini. They've got a huge social media presence, and like Theobald's, you know, with the Wicked pulling team are super good about making posts. And you see, you know, those pages get interaction, you know, with the fans and whatnot, and you see, you know, it being very well received. So, you know, that's
very
a note we
impactful.
can end on, that we all have room to grow on with our social media presences.
Yeah, shout out a great fan call. We need to recognize that. I really enjoyed that one.
I'll interrupt here for a minute because I think this needs to be said too. Is like, because I feel it's kind of funny that we kind of just laugh it off and whatever, but I'm not gonna say I feel sorry for the guy, but I do. But Chase is taking a lot of heat because of this podcast, and I think this podcast is opening up a window for people to either like us or hate us. So maybe being out there a little bit more, showing yourself, you do rise your fans, but you also get the haters too.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, dude, like when Chase legitimately says that we are friends on the outside, and when we're giving him shit, we really do get along. Like, we do not fight.
I don't like either one of you. I don't like either one of you.
Screw you, Chase.
But it is so funny. It's like, man, you know how many people are like, man, you and Tyler are great, but that Chase guy, it's like, holy shit, dude, you got to calm down. Chase is responsible for a lot more stuff than you guys see, but I like it that he's taking the heat.
This show wouldn't be what it is without the three of us. I mean, that's for sure.
It's not heat; it's a breeze, boys.
It's a breeze.
If you're in, if the weather's hot enough, then it's just a breeze, right, Chase?
Yeah, exactly. Post our fan hotline. Backstage operator.
We got to get the input from the people.
Yeah, we love this. We love it, and we sort through them and try to pick one out a week. So, our backstage person, I think, is taking a nap on us tonight.
There it is.
There we go.
There it is. 302-272-5360. Give that number a call at any portion during the week, even if you're listening to this podcast audio only and it's, you know, a Tuesday evening at midnight. Go ahead, give us a jingle, give us your thoughts, tell us we suck, tell us you hate us. We welcome it all. We don't care. As long as you're listening, that's ultimately the goal. Gentlemen, what do you think? We were at almost 2 hours and 10 minutes going into this show thinking that maybe we were going to be lucky if we were going to pull 40 minutes out of this.
I disagree. I told you guys from the get-go. I wish I told you that from the get-go. I knew when we caught the news earlier today that Mark wasn't going to make it on. I was a little depressed because I'd already kind of put some feelers out there. I was trying to get some stories lined up, trying to get some questions for him, you know, and then the guys were like, man, that kind of sucks. I was like, we're going to be okay, you know? And then the Weimer guy, I think he was awesome. Honestly, I think the dude was great. But we can talk about some BS, dude. We can manipulate. You got to adapt. It's called impromptu, and I think you guys are really good at it. So,
but the one thing we suck at is saying goodbye. What do you think?
Yep. Once again, PRI, we're here at Lucas Oil Stadium. If you come, stop by, see us. There is a ticket giveaway for the Farley Nationals, the $700,000 purse. You got to be here on site. They're giving away 10 ticket packages. So if nothing else, come and enter the drawing for the tickets. We have some big time interviews coming up tomorrow. I don't know if we can show the interview lists right here on site in our booth. As you can see, Marvin Epperson from NTPA, and Tron Brown. That's right, the NHRA Top Fuel Champion.
Awesome guy.
Friend of the podcast, Stevie Fast Jackson, will be doing an interview here at the site as well. I think the conversation is starting back up about him beating a mini rod. I'm sure he'll be commenting on it. And then on Friday, Ron Capps, funny car driver, the Napa team. Ron Stone from the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pullers, Jonathan Mears, Pro Pulling League, and then Dave Schultz, the head man at Bowling Green, Ohio. If you come sit in, we have speakers here. There'll be a lot of people interacting, good times, good stuff. If you like Zen, if you like Cold Train, they're right here beside us too. Zen, the little pouches. I'm sure we've all tried that a time or two late in the evening. So all that's coming up. And then it's big announcements coming from Full Pull tomorrow that I think will be really exciting for the pulling community. We can't wait to reveal it all, men. So that's the wrap from my standpoint. I have my backdrop here. We're the only ones in the stadium. I don't know what I'm going. Maybe I should start it up.
Hey, I think you need to go I think you need to go visit Pat McAfee's suite, leaving a little president in there.
Yeah, for sure.
That
for
dude's
sure.
Electricity.
Yeah,
he's the one that's keeping the lights on in that place.
He is. And then also we're coming up on the holidays. So like we did last year, I think 2 weeks from now is Christmas night. The week after is New Year's night. So we're going to take a break until January 8th. So plenty of time to call the hotline during our couple week hiatus during the holidays. And gentlemen, I know we'll probably be talking, but obviously wish all you fans and yourselves and your families a wonderful Christmas and New Year. I will be disappointed if, Tyler, you do not have a New Year's Eve story to share with all of our fans when we come back after the break.
His New Year's Eve story might be he's moving into his house.
Not quite yet, but man, I'm gaining. We picked out a whole bunch of paint colors today, and we're rolling on that place. I'm looking forward to it. So, gentlemen,
Congrats.
Awesome show as always. It's been a pleasure, and thanks to Jim over at Weimer for joining us. That was awesome.
Mark, Megan, we hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Always remember, you'll be the guy that canceled the No Practice podcast, but
that's right.
Happy holidays, man. Love you guys. See you all in a few weeks. I don't love you all, some of the fans.
Yeah, screw you, Chase.
Yeah.
Cheers. Enjoy the cold train, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.
Welcome to Full Pull Picks. Are you ready to take your passion for tractor pulling to the next level? Let's dive into our new exciting game options. First up, we have Classic Picks. To get started, choose a Classic Picks contest. Now, it's time to pick your champions. Pick 2 vehicles that you believe will end in the top 3. Join the contest, and if both of your selections finish in the top 3 for distance points, fantastic prizes will be awarded. Now, our second game, Head-to-Head. In this thrilling challenge, select one competitor from each head-to-head group. Your goal? Predict which of the picks will pull the furthest distance within their respective group. If both of your head-to-head selections rack up the longest distances, you guessed it, prizes will be awarded. So, are you ready to play? Join us at Full Pull Picks and turn your predictions into prizes. The thrill of competition awaits. Let's see who can pull the furthest.
That's a wrap.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the No Practice Podcast.
Have a good one. Bye.
Stay tuned for the next episode, where we guarantee there still won't be any practice.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.